your policy around the home phone, long distance calls, those kinds of things. Talk about that. What is your policy around them having their cell phone?
Your cell phone.
Even their own, right? If you're showering and their phone rings, should they go out and answer their cell phone rather than having a shower? Right. Let's be clear about that. Let's have some discussions around it a little bit. Your personal business, if you're doing 24-hour shifts, what are your policies around that? Around them doing some of their own things. Maybe they need to run to the bank to do something. Is that okay? Is it not? Talk about it. If it's not okay, let them know when you're here for the 24 hours, unfortunately. Or what? Visitors, what's your policy around them having their friend come over or not come over? Assisting you with the telephone, for example. What is your policies around assisting with the phone?
I'm going to keep going or else we're running out of time, Paul.
All right.
The reason I'm just looking over here.
Rolling.
Okay, there's an example. Can get it from Paul another day.
Okay, but you can kind of get there's some more things for you to be really thinking about, and you probably have experienced and stuff that you could use here. So
a great example. Paul would be more than willing to share later on. So
absolutely.
Let's cruise to the next ones really quickly.
Yep. Okay.
So everyone in the country really has to abide by the Employee Standards Act. There are federal and provincial ones. You can always go to the websites and access more information about these particular ones. We're outlining just a few really quick ones here. The minimum hours, minimum wage, of course, which you must pay and must grant to your employees. How overtime is worked, and when. I went too fast. When the employees must be paid their wages.
So let's just talk about them very fast.
Yes.
And so, the minimum hours that someone can be called in for is 2 hours.
2 hours.
Not 4. They used to be 4, and now it's 2 hours. Yep. The wage rate right now, the minimum wage is $10.25. Mm-hmm. I want to be really clear that the Employment Standards Act provides the minimum necessary that you must provide. It is not necessarily recommended to provide the minimum. If you can afford to pay more, you should. If you're looking to try and get employees to be able to stick around long,
yes.
And if you have an employee that's traveling 20 miles to get to your place, offering them 2 hours to do that probably is not the right person for you. Trying to think about that a little bit, definitely. And then what do we got there? The minimum daily wage rate is $102.50 a day. Again, that's the minimum, not necessarily recommended.
Yes.
When does overtime have to be paid for? If somebody's doing an 8-hour shift, that's regular wage over 8 hours. Then you're looking at time and a half for the next 3 hours, and then double time after that. So. Those kinds of things. We can go in that up really quickly. Exactly. Again, as Fernando says, you want to be sure to be familiar with the employment standards information. There's some really good information on the website that you can access as well. And when does employees must be paid their wages? I should say that the rule is that within 8 days of pay period, and they must be paid twice a month.
Yes.
Okay. The next.
Just a few more points here.
So your Employee Standards Act. Yeah. So you're obligated to keep records for your employees and to keep them really confidential as well. And that's really important. Right. In our next session, we'll be talking about privacy and all that kind of stuff. So, when are the employees entitled to statutory holidays? I do want to mention that there are officially 10 statutory holidays.
Yes.
And those statutory holidays, the ones that are not included, that you still, again, as a minimum, you can pay it if you choose to. Is Easter Sunday is not a stat day. Easter Monday is also not a statutory holiday. And neither is Boxing Day.
Stat holiday is a tricky one because it depends on the employment rate, right? How you pay. So
right.
So the one thing that I'm working here is that as a full-time employee, when a statutory holiday day comes up, I'm entitled to that full day to become a full-time employee.
Exactly.
That a part-time employee is not entitled to full days of wages or benefits.
So it works out as a percentage or an equivalent of. So
Exactly.
if you're averaging 20 hours a week, you will most likely get that 20 hours kind of thing.
Well, you'll 20 hours based on
Right.
your full-time
Regular 20
Yeah.
hours a week.
So you're right. A full week is based on a 37.5 hour.
Right.
So you won't be getting all of that.
Oh, that's right. Exactly. Exactly.
It's a tricky one. Just thought I'd share that one.
Yes. And if you are keeping somebody for an 8-hour day, for example, you do have to provide a 30-minute break. That can be a non-paid break.
Yes.
It's not mandatory to provide breaks, coffee breaks.
Yes.
That's not mandatory. Yes. So again, these are the minimum requirements, right? So if you're in a situation where you can afford to provide those breaks, then pay for those. That's great. Or if you can afford to allow 15-minute breaks of non-paid, those are things that you can work out with your employees. There are also ways to be able to do averaging agreements and things, and those are kind of details that we can get into that you could actually read about more in our manuals and stuff, because there are some ways to be able to have it so that you can do 12-hour shifts, for example, and not have to pay overtime.
Exactly.
There's the 24-hour shifts that you don't have to pay overtime for as well. So you can learn more about that through our manuals.
So why don't we, because all this information is outlined in the manuals also, it's quite straightforward. There's not a lot of talking about it.
But I should say that vacation-wise, at a very minimum, 4% of your wages goes to your vacation time, and everybody's entitled to take that vacation.
Yeah, you can get paid out, or you can take it as vacation days.
Yeah,
you have the option of the two.
It's actually a tricky situation. So that's between that has to be written in an agreement, actually.
Yes.
Because by law, it actually says you have to take the time.
Yes.
Unless you have a written agreement between you and the employee that they want to take that money and they love, right, as of taking it. So, she wrote that as well.
That's good.
Okay.
So now we're going to move into an actual contract that is for your employee. Correct?
Exactly.
So some of the things that you want to put into this contract. So as you can see that there are quite a few separate documents that one needs, but you do a lot of the work the first time.
Once you're set up, it's a breeze, right? It's just a matter of getting these things all in place. And
and that's the whole point of this whole exercise of these sessions, that this is a moment to give you all the information you need for that first time entry into the CECL program.
Exactly.
So we've outlined just a few of the required bits of information that must go into a contract, and we've talked a little bit about all of these actually in different ways.
So, and these are all that should go into an official contract.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yes. And I should say that, most people have verbal contracts, not written contracts.
Yes.
Is it recommended to have a written contract? Absolutely. Absolutely. Need a written contract. But, verbal ones, they're difficult to prove, right? Of what the agreements are. So it's really important to try and have things outlined. So, and having all these things outlined in there, so, so that people know if they're going to get paid for Boxing Day or not. Some people are going to get paid for it. Yeah, and what I mean by paid for Boxing Day, if they, are going to get, the day off, or in lieu of, working and stuff, just like on other statutory holidays. And that's really important to everybody, is to be really clear with your staff that if you require to get up on a statutory holiday, that the employees know that they're to come into work that day. That's right. I've had that experience where I had an employee, it was, I don't remember what day it was, but it was on a stat day, and they didn't show up because they thought that was a day off. Right? So I didn't get up. Difficulty getting up that morning. So be clear is really important.
Right. And these are some of the other bits and pieces right here that we have outlined in the actual contracts. We've talked a little bit about some of them, and
information on how to pay out vacation
pay, sick day policies, when to pay. Oh, the training period you mentioned about the 3 months also.
Absolutely, and that's a really important one. Again, your employment standards covers that, so even though you may do that verbally, you still have that 3 months, right?
Yes,
because that's a minimum requirement,
right? Termination and termination notice is a really important one to outline also. Yeah. The reasons for not showing up for work, for example. Yeah. Some of the requirements which you just pull directly from the job description and the other documents. The evaluation also is a good one to have in the contract, because going back on the 3 months, you need to do that. If you don't do an evaluation, then you just fight yourself.
Absolutely, and in the next session, we're going to be talking about disciplinaries and all that kind of stuff, and the processes for those kind of things.
Exactly.
And try to really get things in writing and stuff. And that's what employee guidelines and
confidentiality
as well. So we have an example of which one was it called? It was.
The employee guidelines right here.
Nope.
That's not it?
Nope. It would be called the contract.
Oh, never mind. Okay, right here. Got it right here. So, trying to drag this out. It's really hard with this sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it right in the middle here. Okay, so
this is just a sample of one, and I want to say that it's a draft, right? It's very much only a draft of one. It's pretty comprehensive, but you need to add pieces to it. We're going to be finalizing this for our legal manual that we're working on right now, which will be out soon, actually. It's getting into its final stages and stuff. So, but I pulled this out of there because I think it's a really important thing for everyone to have, and it's probably one of the most important things, how to pull it together, and this kind of gives you an outline of how to do it.
Definitely.
I have a little peek through here.
So a lot of these things that we've talked about or spoken about, and they're just outlined a little bit in a little bit more detail, and at the end of it, it's really simple. You sign, I sign, and we agree to the above terms.
Exactly.
A contract, a basic contract, but a contract only is as powerful as a detail that's based within it. So don't be afraid to include as much information there as possible, just as a backup. So the more the better, I always say about the details.
Absolutely.
And once again, for those of you that would like another example, you can always connect with Paul.
Yep. Okay. For sure. So that helps a little bit thinking about contracts. Okay. And you don't have to do these things alone, everybody. Utilizing that manual is the one way to do it. The Individualized Funding Resource Center is available to help people through these processes and special stuff.
This particular question, we've had quite a few people ask about paying for family members.
Yeah,
so we probably throw it in here.
Yes, you can pay family members. And before everyone gets excited, there's definitely rules around it.
Yes.
So being able to pay family members mainly is that you're looking at being able to pay like your brother or sister, cousins, those kind of family members. At this point in time, straightforward-wise, you're not able to pay for your wife or your son or daughter or husband or so parents cannot do it as well. So when I say that, in the straightforward sense, right, under the payment to family members, straightforward process, your brother, sister, cousins, those kinds of things, it's okay. Gotcha. There are exceptions where you can hire your other family members as well, and which are really more like the immediate family members, right? So the immediate family members, parents, child, spouse, has to be done through a special permission to do it. So, and to do that, you have the health authorities do have the ability to allow you to do that if you're able to show that there's some risk. You know, that there's, let me just talk about that a little bit. So some of the reasons why they would allow you to hire your direct family member, like your mother, father, spouse, etc., you know, is the nature and the degree of the care that is required. So that would be one reason. And ultimately, it's because you can't find someone else to do the job, right? That it's so difficult to find someone else that this is an option that needs to become available, and that's where special permission can be gathered. There's a form that can be filled out through a case manager, sent to the case manager. It can be done in a letter format. It can be done in a form. You have to have proof. It's a good idea to have proof. It's a good idea to show that you put ads up and that you have taken a lot of effort into it. Most often, it's best not to come on the CESA program and ask for it right away. That is something that you should probably try to demonstrate that you've made some effort. Or you do that effort before you get accepted onto the program. How difficult it is, right? So cultural and remote location can be another reason for it.
That's a good one.
So cultural barriers, communication barriers can be another one as well. Family circumstances of the clients have been considered. You know, so and they require some other components of making sure there's enough respite and all that kind of stuff for the family member to make sure that they don't burn out and things as well. But I have to say, you know, when it comes to payment to family members, you know, there's in some family situations that works out really, really well.
Yes.
And that it should really be an option. What's really important is that the individual is really in control of this decision. You know, for some people and having their parents being the person that's providing the care may actually not want that because of the fact that they want some more control over things. But in some cases, the parent relationship with their son or daughter is in such a way that it makes so much sense to make it happen. And what we're looking at here is a choice end of things here. Is it easy to get your family member to go through this process? Some people find it quite daunting to go through this process. It's not easy the threshold is high. Even though, you know, it's clear, right? Communication barrier. Okay, I have a speech impediment and my mother can understand me better. And it works out in our family dynamics. Shouldn't that just be okay? That's what it says. But it seems like there seems to be extra steps that needs to be there. So if people want to discuss that further with me, we can have some further discussions. We've seen people where they've gotten it no problem at all. So it just depends on the situation.